Hey guys, Hitman89 here, I hope you're doing great. Welcome to another episode of Versus. Last time we did the PS5 and Series X, check out that video if you're interested. But today, if you're considering buying Enotria The Last Song and you're not sure whether you should pick it up or maybe get a similar game instead, then you've come to the right place, because this is the question we'll be answering in this episode. Enotria The Last Song or Lies of P? Which is better in 2024? Let's find out! But first, if you want to get all your favorite games for cheap, go to Instant Gaming. Instead of just getting a game for $60, you could get 2 games on Instant Gaming for the same price. You can get all the latest games like God of War Ragnarok, Black Myth Wukong, or even Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 for only $45. And if you're interested in older games, they're pretty much dirt cheap. Instant Gaming is 100% legit. All their games come straight from the authorized resellers. So go ahead and use the link in the description and get your favorite games for super cheap. Now let's get back to the video. One of the many similarities these two games share is that you play as a doll. A masked wooden doll in Enotria and a mechanical one that's supposed to be Pinocchio in Lies of P. Except he looks like Timothée Chalamet and has a mechanical arm for some reason. So Lies of P is set in a sorta historic France, but where these mechanical dolls, aka puppets, went rogue. The game looks pretty damn good and will definitely remind you of Bloodborne. It's also well optimized on all platforms. Enotria on the other hand is set in a sunny, beautiful world inspired by Italian folklore. As you can see, the environments look stunning. The character models are just okay though, and the animations are terrible. Oh, and the game runs like shit. On Lies of P, I get around 120 frames per second on native 4K, but here, without the LSS, the game is unplayable. I have a 4080 and I only get 40 FPS. Thankfully, with the LSS, the frame rate pretty much doubles, so this is one of those games where using FSR or the LSS is mandatory. Long story short, only get this on PC if you have a solid rig. Otherwise, just get the PS5 version. It looks okay and runs fine. Now when it comes to the gameplay, Lies of P has a tight timing for parrying and dodging, but all around, both options are viable and the game is really enjoyable. Also, it launched in a really good state, super well polished, no technical issues, no bugs, which is rare, cause almost every game we get, it feels like we're the ones who should be getting paid for beta testing the game day one. Enough with the rants though, for a Soulslike, I found Lies of P way too easy. No boss fight took me more than 2 attempts. There's a weapon assembling system where you can combine blades and handles to have different movesets and abilities. So that's good, but exploration wise, it can be a little too linear and you can only jump while sprinting. That's not a problem in Enotria. There are a lot of optional locations to explore and there is a separate jump button. Even though, more often than not, you'll get shot mid-air and fall to your death. It happened to me a few times, and that's if I don't just fall and die like a piece of shit without having anyone pushing me, just cause the platforming is far from being accurate. When you start the game, you'll notice that the tutorial tries to cram in as much information as it can. I mean, it literally spams you with a bunch of screens every couple of seconds, instead of progressively teaching you new game mechanics as you need them. Speaking of which, who the fuck thought putting tutorials mid-boss fight was a good idea? Oh, and in case you're new to the channel, I'm a little bitch, okay? So for me, sneaking up on enemies and backstabbing them is a huge part of the Souls experience. But Enotria doesn't have backstabbing, and that's a shame. Just like the fact it only took me 10 minutes to come across the first bug. What's the point of parrying the last second and surviving if I'm gonna be stuck with this piece of shit staring at me? That's not a life worth living, so I killed myself. Sometimes enemies and bosses would get stuck for a few seconds, like this guy, so as an Arab, I instantly started throwing rocks at him.
That's it, brother. That's the way it is, cuz. That's how it is on the streets, brother.
The lapidation was going great until he got unstuck and beat the shit out of me. Thankfully, when it happened with this other boss, I was able to make the most out of it and beat his ass easily. While exploring Enotria's beautiful world, you'll come across these giant magic buttholes that you can fist to summon an elite enemy and get your ass fisted. In all seriousness though, sometimes you can also use those to alter the environment. Now in Lies of P, parrying is important, but since I'm not a fan of that, I was able to get by just fine by dodging. The dodge system isn't that good, it doesn't cover that much ground, so you still have to time your dodges properly or do it multiple times to make sure you don't get hit. Too bad Enotria is one of those games where parrying is mandatory. I mean, it makes it seem like you can also just dodge, but trust me, I got stuck at the very first boss fight because of that. I'm not even kidding, this piece of shit killed me 69 times just cause my dumbass thought dodging was a viable option in this game. As soon as I focused on parrying though, I literally beat him within the second try. But I don't like parrying games, especially when you have enemies and bosses attacking you several times in a row, only taking a break for a second and then going on those 9-hit combos again. Plus there is some input delay, which really doesn't help. And once you've pressed the attack button, you can't cancel it and dodge. You're stuck in that animation until you get hit. Another thing that bothered me and that will probably be addressed soon is that the healing animation takes an eternity. More often than not, I end up canceling the healing just to dodge or parry in time. At least you can have multiple loadouts and you can switch between them at will, but there are some other game mechanics that feel unnecessary and that can be overwhelming for some people. We call those people bitch ass noobs. Yeah, this is an IGN. Anyway, Lies of P has some solid voice acting, terrible lip sync job though, just like every Souls game out there, but the music is good. Personally, I really like Enotria's soundtrack better, but there are some odd decisions here and there, like having an opening cutscene with no voiceover. But at least this way, the game lets you know how cheap and unpolished it is, so you can quickly lower your expectations and still be disappointed. You'll also meet some characters that aren't voiced. The devs already said they would be adding more voiceovers in March 2025, so you better not be in a hurry. I mean, why didn't they release the game in early access for cheap instead and then keep on polishing it? Or why didn't they just delay it if they knew it wasn't ready for release? Oh yeah, money. That's why. I think it's time to move on to the verdict. Lies of P is available on Game Pass for both PC and Xbox users. You can also get it for like $35 if you're on PlayStation. Enotria, the last song, on the other hand, will cost you $50, and the lack of polish gets more and more noticeable as you progress through the game, so in my opinion, it's only worth $25. I truly believe if they listed it for $35 instead, the reviews would be much more positive. Speaking of reviews, if I were to rate these two games, I would give Lies of P an 8 out of 10 and Enotria in its current state is 6.5. Personally, I like Enotria better because I'm more into medieval games and I don't like fighting robots that much, but objectively speaking, Lies of P is better in almost every aspect. If you're on Xbox or PS4, at the moment of making this video, Lies of P is your only option because Enotria doesn't have a release date for Series X yet. But if you're on PS5 or PC and you can get Enotria the last song for $25 tops, why not? And that's gonna be it for this comparison video. If you like this format, hit the thumbs up button and let me know what you wanna see next. Starship Troopers vs Helldivers 2, or maybe PS5 vs PC. I'll do the most suggested one. In the meantime, please subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's been Hitman89, have a good one.
I will not stop, I am prepared to get to the top, yeah, you must be rare. God, I'm like, hey.